Hey everybody, Marcus C. Williams here. And if you might have missed it in the last couple of days, there's been a debate raging on the internet over legal immigration. It's out of control. So what's happened is Vivek and Elon Musk have kicked off this firestorm by pushing to expand immigration into our nation as Americans struggle. It's a very interesting concept. So they've talked largely about the H-1B program, which is to push to bring more technical, skilled, and right, like the program doesn't always work like this, but in theory, it's supposed to be bring over the best and the brightest, right? And why wouldn't we want people that are highly capable and highly technical in our nation to do work? Well, shouldn't we be focusing on Americans, right? Like America first, like make America great again is about making America great again for Americans, not for everybody else to come over here and to leech out the greatness of our nation. Now, this is something that's very concerning because it takes the concept of American first and MAGA and all of this stuff, which is supposed to be on uplifting the American citizen, and it puts it on foreigners. You want to uplift foreigners? Don't they have their own countries? Moody's done a great job in India to uplift his country. Why don't they uplift their country? You understand what I'm saying? Now, it's turned into a lot about Indians and Chinese because they are largely the people that are the Asians that are getting these jobs. Whenever you hear the term Asian, you got to look at who's saying it because usually they don't mean Asians. They either are referring to Chinese or they're referring to Indians, depending on who says it. And sometimes they'll say brown people in reference to Indians. I heard Indians calling themselves brown people the other day. That was a first for me. So that was interesting. But this is very interesting as we talk about this conversation. What happens if we massively expand immigration into this country? So I'll break it down real quick and as succinct as possible, and I'll do a further video on this later. If we're going to bring in all of these people that are supposedly the best and the brightest, I want you to think of all of the kids that you know that want to be some sort of sports player or be famous in the NBA or the NFL or whatever the case is. There's only so many jobs in the NFL, right? Like it's like a 1 in a million thing. You know what I'm saying? Like there's only so many jobs. There's only so many jobs in the NBA, right? And there's even less players than just jobs, right? Like, so if you really want to be a part of that, you really are going to have to struggle to be at the top of the heap. It's already prohibitive in the number of people that are in there because of the slots. And the same thing is true for the tech field, for the high-level status positions that are considered to be the C-suite. You know, those are like the CEO, CFO, all of these different COO of all of these different companies, these high-level positions and stuff like that. So now those are already highly competitive places. But instead of focusing on Americans and making it so that Americans are ready, capable, or able to do those jobs, which there are already a lot of Americans which are boxed out of those jobs because of preference for either people that are immigrants on visas or for people that can be brought in on visas. Now, I need to say that again because it merits saying again. There is a very serious thing where these high-level jobs and positions are more favorable to people that are either here on visas or are able to be brought over on visas. Now, there's many ways that we could talk about that, and I'm not going to dig into it too deeply on this video. I'll do a longer one later. I'll do a whole live on it. But with this right here, I'm going to explain to you how it's going to work if this continues the way that they want to go. They talk about they want to streamline the process. Streamline. These are important words. Streamline. Make easier, right? Refine, right? They want to expand. That means more, okay? So they want to make it faster and they want to bring in more people. Do we not have an issue right now with illegal immigration? Do we not have all of these people here that are illegal immigrants, right? Like, so these are the people when you talk about the border hoppers and stuff like that, they are forming a base level on society. They're not in the upper echelon. So those are two separate aspects of it. So the baseline people that are coming over here that are illegal aren't highly qualified for anything. Most of them, a lot of them don't speak the language, and they don't have any real skills. So they're out there competing with everyday Americans in the everyday job space, right? Like going to work at factories, going to work in meat packaging, going to work at Walmart, right? Home Depot. Like, so they're already competing with the everyday Americans in those aspects. And if you talk to other people out there in the world, it is becoming more and more of a serious issue, depending on where you are in the country. But it's real serious. And then you have these people that they're trying to bring in legally. Well, first, let me talk about the people that are here on expired visas, which we don't talk about, which every single person here on an expired visa needs to be the first people out of this country, okay? Because they wrong, because they ain't tried to get right, and they could have been right, and they ain't. So we got all of these people that they're trying to bring in that are going to be highly technical, highly level, what would you call them? Almost to the point of elites, right? We'll call them technocrats because that's what they are. So-called experts or top professionals, technocrats. So I'll give you this example. Think of it like a boardroom. Let's say there's a boardroom. It's got 30 seats. There's a ton of Americans outside in the hallway trying to clamor to get in, fighting tooth and nail against other Americans trying to get in the room. That room has 30 chairs. And while they're in there, while they're outside in the hallway trying to get in, somebody opens up a back door and lets in 28 foreigners to take up 28 of those seats. So now there are only 2 seats available. But the people at that table now get to have a very strong input on who gets chosen for those seats. So now all the Americans that are in the hallway only have the capability of possibly getting 2 seats, but there's already going to be a preference for those who are already in those positions for them to choose people that are culturally similar, that are from the same type of background, and these would be immigrant backgrounds. And I'm specifically, again, talking about Chinese and Indian. Of course, there are some other people come over from Poland or wherever or whatever. But when we start to talk about numbers, cultural integration and stuff like that, that's not where the real issue is in our country right now. And I'll dig into that in a little bit. And this will now create a higher tier above the average American, right? Where there's now a stop where they can't move up. So that prevents upward mobility. Then they've got these other people that are below them that now they're competing with these regular jobs, right? These everybody jobs. We also have the issue with automation coming in. You see all of these people at the ports. Oh my God, we can't work because they're taking all the jobs with all of these machines and longshoremen can't work. Of course, this is what's happening. You see the people at Amazon, oh my God, they aren't paying us enough and they've got all these machines taking our jobs. You see the unions for Amazon, okay? You see the unions for all these other people. Oh my God, the machines are taking our jobs. AI is taking our jobs as actors. I don't have pity for those actors because they've been out there talking a lot of junk that's very anti-American and against traditional Americanism. So I don't pity them at all. But they're like, AI is taking our jobs. You know, the machines are taking our jobs. And these are the people in the acting field. So we need to be very cognizant of that is something that's coming down the pike. Now watch this. So there is a new elite class that they're pushing in. And they're not the top level elites, right? But what this is this is a barrier between the American people and the top level elites. That's what it is. Okay? These are the technocrats. This is the start of the technocracy. This is at this level. Above those people are the extremely affluent and well-connected. And they're always going to be up there for so many generations that these people down here ain't going to matter to them. But the reason why they're trying to bring all of these people in is to keep the American citizens from being able to be upwardly mobile. Because what happened over the last couple of years, and you've seen it probably, is the American people have started to get hip to the jive of the American corporation, right? Like the affluent elites that are really in charge of everything behind the scenes. You know, that is something that's very, very notable that cannot be taken out of this conversation. That's why they want to bring all of these people in, because they know that they're not going to integrate. They know that they're not going to end up being Americans, okay? So, and I say American when I mean American heritage, American history, American, all of that, right? Like that's not going to be their loyalty, as can be very well established with these illegal immigrants on the lower level, where you see them waving all of the flags of all their other countries because they don't actually care about America. Their allegiance, their loyalty, their heart is for their land. The same thing is true of all of these Indians that come over here and the Chinese, which we have had a history of seeing them steal intellectual property, okay, in these positions. We just had a couple of Indian people arrested in, what was it? I can't remember the specific positions, but it was in the Department of Defense for selling information. And we see that chronically with China. We also had a couple of years ago where there was a big uproar in the pharmaceutical industry because the Indians were stealing their patents and stuff like that and taking it back to India. That was a big thing there. And we know we got a problem with China because China's always doing it. We got a real serious issue with intellectual property theft and ways and means and ideas and concepts theft from America with China. That's very well known. That's not unknown. So these are things that we have to look into and look at. And here's the deal. When we talk about this, we need to have a very serious conversation. And again, I'm going to do a longer video on this. I'll do a live stream later on this. But this has to be noted that this is going on. What they're doing is they're creating a limitation to your ability to be upwardly mobile. If they wanted to focus on something, Elon and Vivek could say, well, we'll take these jobs that are available and we'll have the companies train the people, the American citizens that need the jobs for those positions. We'll have them use horizontal or quasi-vertical integration to bring the people that are in similarly aligned fields or not far off into these industries. That's not the conversation they're having. Their conversation is, let's bring in some more immigrants from other places, thereby eliminating the possibility for Americans to move upward. This is very concerning. This is very, very concerning, and it should concern you all. Because Elon Musk is an American. He's South African. And we're not going to go into the whole thing with South Africa and how they were Nazis and all of this other stuff. Oh, Marcus, South Africa wasn't Nazis. Yes, they were. Like Brazil and other South American countries, a lot of Nazis fled to South Africa, and South Africa was very much so divided by race. That's why we had the whole thing with Nelson Mandela, okay, the apartheid, like that whole separation based on race and the race wars where the whites were killing the Africans in South Africa didn't stop until like the mid 90s. Like that's just yesterday, really. Like that's in the lifetime of the majority of the people that'll end up watching this video. So that just happened. And this is the background that Elon comes from. His family's got money. His mom's a model and all this other stuff that she does. She's got a very unique person. I'm not going to talk about it. But his father owns precious gem mines and stuff like that. And people are like, oh, well, we should feel bad for Elon because he was beat as a kid and wasn't treated nicely. Are you serious? How many of us were beat as a kid and not treated nicely? But we didn't have those advantages. Are you serious? But the point of the matter is that he's not American. He might have an American citizenship, which many people have been questioning whether he got that legitimately or not. I don't know enough to comment on that part, but it seems like it's worth somebody looking into, okay? But here we are now. He owns all of this stuff and all of these companies and stuff like that. And we're going to really tie this together in a quick second with a post that he put. So this is something that's very, very serious. And if we're not having a real conversation about that, we're not doing justice to anything. We also have Vivek, who's what, second generation American? He doesn't have any tie to America. He preaches all of these gospels about Americanism and what does he like to say all the time? I'll think of it in a second. It's that M word. I'm trying to think of what it is. Meritocracy. That's what it is. Meritocracy. 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 Meritocracy is coded language. Okay. Meritocracy is coded language for technocrats. Okay. We want to push Americans down to the lowest level as possible and bring in all the Indians and Chinese. Specifically for him, his move is the Indians because he is Indian. You understand what I'm saying? So, and he's pushed this from the beginning. So pushing for this concept of meritocracy. But you saw when he was talking about, oh, I want to get rid of affirmative action. We need to get rid of affirmative action because it doesn't help with the best and the brightest. And really what the conversation around affirmative action at the time is, and you can go back and look at this in the news and stuff like that, is that it was discriminatory against Asians. That was the whole concept. It was discriminatory against Asians. What is Vivek? Asian. You understand what I'm saying? Now, this at the time had started to be pushed by China, the CCP, in favor of actual Chinese people getting into these positions. But again, Vivek saw it as an opportunity for Indians because Indians felt like they were being blocked out as well. But not on the level that the Chinese were doing it because it was intentional by the Chinese government. And they were trying to weaponize that against the American people, which is a much larger conversation. But he saw that he could use this coded language to actually get support from the Asians. And I say it like that, right? Because it's not all the Asians, right? We're not talking about the Taiwan, like the people from Thailand. We're not talking about the Vietnamese. When they say Asians, they're talking specifically about China, okay? But Vivek, when he says it, he's talking specifically about India. And you got to wake up and see what's going on. This is very important. Very, very dreadfully important, you guys. So we need to be paying attention to this because it started with Vivek coming at black people. But again, he wasn't coming against black people. He was coming against black Americans, and he wasn't really coming against black Americans. He was coming against the idea of America for Americans. Okay? Okay? Sit with that for a minute. This is important for us to talk about. This is important for us to have these very serious conversations about, which are not being had. Because nobody really wants to be the one to start talking about it because they are concerned that they might be considered racist or discriminatory or whatever. I don't care, bro. I care about America and Americans. I saw that man play us from the gate, and people didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to listen to it because they're so desperate for a savior because you have been beat down by despair so much in this country. He says everything perfect, everything that you want to hear, absolutely everything. To the point where you should be asking, is that snake oil that's being sold? Because it is. It is snake oil. And this is something that I've been trying to warn and tell people about from the beginning. He talks about God all the time, but he's not Christian. What God, Vivek? You understand what I'm saying? But you play in Christians' faces. And people let him because he's singing the songs that you want to hear. You gotta wake up and see that these people are devious and they've always been consistent on what they've been talking about. But you gotta pick up what they're putting down. And that's where we need to really venture into this conversation. It's serious. It's serious, y'all. Vivek only cares about himself. That's it. He doesn't care about the Americans. He cares about the American corporation so he can make more money. It's not about the American people. Elon doesn't care about the American people. He cares about the human agenda for the universe and making us a multi-planetary species, and he wants to be the leader of the elites because he sees differently than what most of the other elites want to do, and he would like to do it a different way, but he still wants globalization, all of this, all of that. He spoke at the World Economic Forum about it. I don't know why you don't listen to these people when they're telling you who they are. Well, I believe it's credited to Maya Angelou that when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Also sometimes said is somebody tells you who they are, believe them the first time. But people don't want to believe it because they're so desperate to believe a deception, just like in the Bible. The Bible says, and I'm paraphrasing here, it says, and the people didn't want to hear the truth. They just wanted to be deceived. So the Lord let them fall prey to a grand deception or a great deception. That's what's happening right now. That's what's happened with Elon and Vivek. They've been consistent on their BS this whole time. It's very clear and evident to see through it that they haven't been concerned about the American people. It's always been about expanding the corporatist and corporatism and expanding the technocrat class. Now, I'm going to go back to this technocrat class because this is a very, very important thing, and we're going to tie that in with the AI, with the automation, with everything else, and what the long-term impact is going to be on the American people. Check it. Remember I said that they're bringing all the people in this technocrat level, and then you got all the other people on the bottom underneath that are coming in that are the basically non-skilled people coming in through the illegal immigration process. In the middle are the American people fighting for the lower end jobs, fighting for the top end jobs. Now, what happens with the top end jobs as automation starts to take more of those jobs, right? So as automation starts to take more of those jobs, the people are going to be pushed down. Some of the people from the top are going to go down a little bit because they're not going to be able to get any other job. So they're going to go down a little bit. But when they go down a little bit, now the ceiling that was up here is now down here a little bit. And then there will be more because those jobs will be taken by the AI and the automation. And then the ceiling goes down a little bit. But at the same time as it's going down, on the bottom side, you got all the illegals, and it's going up, and it's going up, and it's going up. But the people in the middle, which are the American citizens, can't go anywhere. So they're sandwiched in the middle, and they're getting squeezed out. That's it. They're working to squeeze out Americans out of our own country. We have nowhere to go. We'll have no ability to substantiate ourselves or to provide for ourselves. And they don't care because they saw that we were getting hip to the jive of the globalism that has been pushed for decades. For decades. And we're starting to push back against that. We want to build up America. We want to restore the power of America so that we don't move towards this one world global order that is against the traditional American hegemony. But the Western elites are the ones that are behind all of this. You understand what I'm saying? The extremely affluent, the ones at the top of the pyramid, are the ones that are manipulating and controlling all of this. This isn't something that's like a theory. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is conspiracy fact. All you got to do is listen to them. If you go in and you look at different things like what the World Economic Forum talks about, what they talk about at the UN, what they talk about at, COPE, whatever we're on now. I think we're 25 or whatever it is, where they talk about the climate stuff. And if you listen to all of these people, they're telling you what's going on. And that's just in the spaces that we know about. That's not like the Bilderbergs or these other more secretive organizations that we don't even have a grasp on, that we can't really get any information out about. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm just using them as an example. There's dozens more. And I'm sure some of you can probably drop some in the comments, and that can be talked about at another time. But this is real, and this is serious, and this is a clear and present danger to all Americans, to all citizens of America. Because this right here will serve as a potential move to squash all of the Americans and push us out of being able to be productive. This is a problem. What should have happened is they should have been focusing on the American citizens and retooling the Americans for these positions, for what's upcoming. Because soon, there won't be a lot of these jobs that are going around. We are seeing the collapse of retail everywhere. Just had Big Lots close. What do you call it? Party City is closing, and we're talking between them about 1,300 stores across the country. GameStop is set to close more stores. We've got a ton of other places. JCPenney is officially closing. Sears is officially closing all of what's left of their locations coming up in the new year, it looks like. And all of these other stores are closing. I was reading an article today where I live, the Democrat and Chronicle. Say goodbye to 28 restaurants and bars. You know, like that's not retail, but still, it shows you what's really going on, that we're losing a lot in a lot of areas. And these are jobs. Jobs that everybody can get on an everyday basis. So where will people work? Then they say the people on the immigrants and stuff like that. Oh, well, the immigrants can, the largely talking about the illegals, right? They'll say, oh, well, they can work on the farm. What farm jobs, bro? What farm jobs? There aren't enough farm jobs in the country, and they're not even taking those jobs. Are you serious? Some will, but the majority won't. Like, they're not going to take those jobs. That's not what they're here for. They don't want none of that. And we saw that definitely highlighted by all of these people that didn't want the food in the shelters in New York City, where they were giving them real nice food and stuff like that. They're like, we don't eat that. We don't want that. And that's how the whole EBT thing came about, because they didn't want the food that they were being given. Okay? Go back to your country, bro. For real. Okay? And as far as the people on the top, these technocrats, I'm going to put this little bug in your ear, and I want you to take this with you and really analyze it. We are on the verge of a technocracy in America. People have talked for years and years about the elites, right? What does the elites mean? So whether, depending on who you are, you might think a little bit different on the elites. When I say the elites, I mean largely the Western elites and the people at the very top of the pyramid that are behind the scenes manipulating pretty much most of everything. But it also is on a more localized issue in the US on these people that are right behind the government manipulating the people in government, and even a couple of the people in government, because it goes to blood ties and people that are intermarried and stuff like that. That's what it goes to. But people don't talk about that. There is a very serious issue with these people who are all tied together, and their whole thing is to make sure that you don't come up. You know, like you read The Great Gatsby, right? That is the whole argument between old money and new money. Old money don't want new money nowhere near them. That was the whole point of the story. Well, there was more to it, but that was a big part of it, you know? So we need to be having these important conversations, and they're not being had enough because people are starting to be concerned about how they might look. But now all of a sudden, thank the Lord that it's all out in the air now. It's all out in the air now. Now people are starting to see that they're not actually for Americans, that they are pushing for immigration. And these are the same people, if you remember, the people that are starting to wake up are people that they've been told by the left, oh, you think that they're going to have people replace you. Well, the great replacement concept I had never heard before until I heard it on some left-wing media, right? So now all of a sudden, that's a concept that's been pushed out there. But that's really something that's happening. As I told you earlier, the people on the bottom are replacing us, and the people on the top are replacing us. You understand what I'm saying? This is very, very serious, okay? And I'll talk more about this in my live stream later, and I'll put up some videos and stuff. But this is very, very serious. I encourage you, follow my YouTube channel, the Marcus C. Williams channel. Just go to YouTube, the Marcus C. Williams channel, like and subscribe, hit the little notification bell so you can get all the updates for my videos. And we'll talk more about this a little later. You guys be blessed, be well, and remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action.